Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody. This is Kara Thrasher Livingston with Senior and Disability Services, and we'd like to welcome you to our Care Coordinator info sharing session. And we do have our agenda up here. I do have, of course, more to share at the bottom of the document, but most importantly is that you're here and joining us, and I think people are still joining in. I see our numbers going up a little bit, but today is a great day to reach out because we do have a guest presenter, Michelle Binkley from the Governor's Council, with announcement that a special announcement for us to be aware of. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and find the document and share that here. And Michelle, maybe if you wanted to share a little bit more about about what you do. And I know most of us are used to the Governor's Council, but it would be great to know. Thank you.
Sure. Well, like you said, my name is Michelle Binkley, and thank you so much, Kara, for allowing me to come and talk to you and the group today. I oversee several committees that the Governor's Council has purview over, that being the Interagency Coordinating Council, the Self-Advocacy Committee, the Special Education Panel, and the, well, I'm also a member of the CISA Board and the Deaf Education Board. So, but this is one of my main responsibilities, is the ICC. And I also do have one more document that I'd like to show, Kara, if you can allow me to share the screen with you.
Sure, I'll change the presenter to you.
Okay.
There you go. All you have to do is accept it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure. Okay. Show my screen. Okay. This is the first time I've used this platform. So, okay. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about the Interagency Coordinating Council. This is a part of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It's Part C, to be specific. And the council has some very specific requirements that it must meet in order to continue receiving IDEA funding. And one of those requirements is that we have a specific composition of members that we must have. And this on the left side is just the types of members that we need, and that is from legislation. And then on this side, one of the things that the legislation says is that we have to have diversity in our committee. And our committee should reflect the diverse population in the state. In the legislation, it says that we have to include minority parents. So that is one area that we really need help with recruiting. That, and also somebody from the Bureau of Indian Administration, Indian Health, or somebody that can represent the tribal council. And it's not just a matter of staying in compliance, it's a matter of getting all of the players together and to be able to help children that are in every part of the state, because it's so different. And this flyer went out on Gov Delivery last week. And it's just kind of a little bit about what we do, bringing all of these entities together. And we welcome anybody. Just because you aren't on that list, you can't represent any of those on the list, that doesn't mean you can't be a member. We need people who are committed to helping us move the ICC forward and all the things that we do. But we are especially in need of public and private services. Somebody who, like I said, represents the Bureau of Indian Affairs, parents and guardians of children with developmental delays under the age of 6. And then, like I said, parents and guardians from culturally diverse backgrounds. And like I said, please, if you are interested, email me and you can join us. We're kind of reimagining this committee. I'm new here, and so we really want to get a fresh start and move this work forward. So does anybody have any questions?
And so the way our format works here, Michelle, is that folks can text them in, and
Oh, okay.
and that's okay. They can be texted in, and what we'll do is read them out. Okay.
Okay.
And I can switch presenter back to myself. Questions or thoughts for Michelle at all? And I'm looking at the questions panel. Sometimes it takes people a few minutes or a minute or so to compose them. But this is really good information. I always enjoy learning about the work that you do and the wonderful committees that you have. Of course, that's a structural thing with our Governor's Council. Question says, when are the meetings and are they on Zoom?
Well, the meetings we are by legislation, we have to have quarterly meetings. But again, we're kind of reimagining this committee, so we want to put together some work groups. So we've kind of been going back and forth between maybe once a month having a work group, but we have to meet quarterly. Our next meeting is probably going to be in early December after the Thanksgiving break. And I'm sorry, what was the other question? The second.
Are they on Zoom? And then
Oh, yeah.
go ahead. There's another question came in. Are there current projects in the works?
Yes, we are on Zoom. Everything is virtually. And right now, some of the projects that we have in the works, we are working on how we can make some work groups with our the priorities. Again, all of those come from IDEA. So we're still kind of putting all of that together. So I welcome anybody who wants to come and be a trailblazer in this, and you can be a part of everything new that we're doing. So that's kind of where we are in the reimagining the beginning stages.
Okay. Sounds awesome. Other thoughts, questions? It says, how does the council work with AADD? And AADD is the Alaskan Association for Developmental Disabilities, or serving people with developmental disabilities. Do you have an answer for that one?
Yes, so it's a little bit it's a different, because that is actually governed by the Developmental Disabilities Act, and this council is from IDEA legislation only. So they're two very different, they come from two very different pots of money. So we have to really show that we're meeting these IDEA requirements. And while the council does govern that committee, it's really, really important that we bring in like the early intervention, infant learning programs. So they just kind of, I guess, oversee the work, but it's just, we have to prove that it's very different, just because we want to keep having funding.
Gotcha. That's good. Thank you. As a comment that says, I imagine it's difficult to get parents of that age group because it's an age of children where parents are super busy, especially when the children have developmental delays. I will talk to those I know, though. That's a care coordinator communicating through this to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Then there was a question about showing the contact info, so I hope I got that on there so you can see that. And then it says, so is the focus on youth and transition?
No, it's just on infants and toddlers, so 0 to 3.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Awesome. Well, those are the questions that I have here on my list of questions. And if anybody has others, feel free to just shoot them to me, and I can shoot them to you, Michelle. We can help. Always able to get you information outside of this format too. So, but yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to
Well,
stick
thank you
around
for
if you
having.
want, or
Okay,
take
yes,
off.
I'm curious to see what goes on, so I will stick around.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. All right, awesome. So just give me one sec here while I get our agenda back up on my screen and make a little bit of room here on my small screen, and making a little bit more room. All right, I'm going to pop my questions out so I can see them better, and I can help everybody better that way. Okay, hang on. Okay. All right. So anyway, our agenda today is a good one. We have, in addition to Michelle, a few announcements. So I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to start. We are welcoming our entire training team in to our session here. Just sort of dealing with access to it and different computer issues and things like that. But don't worry, we're here and we're ready to offer you this information and answer your questions as we go. Okay, so first things first, the SDS website. Really happy to say that it's up and running again. You can use it for all of your customary needs. We do get a lot of questions about how to contact unit managers, and I did put our web address here for that. You feel free to go ahead and go to our main website, see if it'll be nice and open the hyperlink. You can you can use that, and here we go. You can probably see it in just a second here. It will be available to you for all of customary purposes. And there you go. It'll change. Just give it a minute. Um, so anytime you need to get in touch with somebody, you can check out the Contact Us. I'm not going to spend our time together to, go forth and go through the entire list of who to go to and things like that. But once again, it's up. And if you notice any problems with it, there might be little glitches or something like that, of course, let us know. I know that everybody here is really good at, letting us know those things. So there's that. And what else here? Our DPA issues with Medicaid. Sorry for the sort of random list here. I will do this one, and then, trainers, if you want to jump in, just jump on in. Okay. We did get questions about DPA eligibility when a person would have a certain number of days lapse between or go by from when they first got eligibility for Medicaid until they actually had that support plan approved. So that has been worked out with DPA. We communicated with them about how difficult it would be to start over again for eligibility, and the fear and anxiety of about what if this happens every single time somebody becomes eligible for Medicaid, and then it takes over 90 days to get to the actual support plan. And it seemed that DPA had different deadlines than SDS. So we put it all together and talked with DPA. And you should not be experiencing this issue. If you do, we have contacts for you. Tia Mikes and Tama Carson. Tia runs the LTC long-term care unit there, which includes waiver folks. And Tama is the supervisor. Okay. So the particular case, we want to make sure that you have, of course, an ROI in order to talk about that case. Should you have that issue come up, for your people who are applicants with Medicaid eligibility sort of in play. Thoughts or comments on that one? Says, has there been any Medicaid clarification about how to get DPA, the Med 3 transfer of assets? DSM and Harmony have not been a timely medium for getting those to DPA. Okay, so you don't send things to DPA through Harmony. That is not how it gets to them. Trainers want to jump in here for, may not have this current today
Yeah,
information.
no,
Yeah, go ahead.
you're right on. I know it looks like DPA, and DPA does have very limited access to Harmony. It's limited to an initial plan gets approved. We create a note that goes to them, or actually it sends a tickler straight to them that says, support plan approved pending DPA. This is the only thing they can do, the only thing, right? So if you put a note in about an ROI or TOA or something, they can't see it. They can't go to the consumer and actually look at their consumer notes. So they, due to security reasons with the Harmony, every external that engages with the Harmony system is ratcheted way down to absolutely what do they need to know how to do, right? So yes, we know DSM has been a black hole, right? So much is admitted so to a care coordinator. We haven't looked at it in a month and we are fixing that. They told SDS that. Look, we didn't see it. We're working through it as fast as we can. So that's why I have the contact specifically for Tia and Tama to, so if you've got someone who's being shut down because the TOA form never got sent, or Med 3 form, or something they responded to, even though you sent it to DSM, shoot an email to these gals. You could, I don't know if they have any direct DSM or not, you know, directly to their name. So I see a lot coming in. I can't read and talk at the same time.
Okay.
So.
That's okay. We'll go back to that. Okay, we'll go back to it. They were not checking DPA, DSM. I guess now they are. Some of them, a correspondence they ask for is not possible to get. Should we encourage families to go to appeal hearing? You know, that is up to the family to do that. You know, that we're the beyond today. Today is not, we wouldn't have the ability to go into depth like that. We don't know why they stopped checking their DSM, or if they did, we'd have to confirm that. You know, sometimes it's, you know, sometimes it's something that is an assumption.
Yeah, and
I do know
that's kind of what happened here. It was a staffing thing. They thought they had staff covering that, and that staff thought someone else was covering that, and so that's what happened. And Tia can help you with all that.
Tia Mikes is the manager. She does have DSM. So if you can just find Tia Mikes on DSM, you can send her a DSM. The other questions we really don't know. Okay. It's really just, I'd have to look into it more. Okay.
And it's really out of our purview. I mean, it's a whole different division from us. And I know that we have to work in tandem, which is why we can get you the information, but we really can't control what they do and don't do.
And you can find forms for DPA if you Google DPA web. You can find their ROI forms or any other form that they have available to you. What else? What else here? All right. So Tia. All right. I'll go up and I'll show you those names again. Okay. Tama Carson. Tia Mikes and Tama Carson. She's the unit supervisor. You know, Tama, she's the supervisor over Tia. Tia Mikes can help probably more directly with individual cases, things like that. Okay, so yeah, we don't send things to a DPA through Harmony. That's the essence of this discussion. Okay, you're sending it to and from SDS, and DPA has a limited viewpoint into the record, but we are not sending anything to anyone other than SDS with Harmony. So a couple other updates. Don't worry about these for right now, but we did want to give you a heads up. There's a new employment form that'll be coming to Harmony. It'll get a start date assigned after January 1. It's an employment services follow-up form, which is most best compared to the questionnaire. It just helps to determine progress towards employment outcomes for the person. More like a checkbox thing. I'm not seeing that it's going to be a heavy narrative thing or anything like that. We will put together volunteer care coordinators who want to help us plan it and have a training about it too. Okay, so next up here is a new edition of the Harmony Guide with a summary of guide changes. Delight, are you here? Did you want to discuss this part? Did you want to present this part?
I'm here.
Yay.
I had a lot of trouble getting in, guys. So, it looks like I have a halo. Don't worry, it's just my lighting. I'm not that angelic. So what is going on with the guide changes? It looks like a lot when we look at what Kara has presented. One of the big first chunks here is that we have really reorganized actions that are related to plans. So previously in initials, amended, and renewals, there were little snippets of each one of these different pieces. Sometimes they were repeated and sometimes they weren't. And this was causing confusion. So folks were struggling on finding the right thing that was related to plan. And the reality is these actions apply to all sorts of plans. So we broke them into their own chapter. So incomplete, so the instructions here, they're all for specific cases. So when you run through the instructional set, it's just related to that one subject. So you have an issue with putting together an incomplete, go to that chapter, and that's chapter 8, I believe. Let me confirm. Yeah, so chapter 8, if you have questions on doing an incomplete, work through the incomplete. Same thing for an expedited plan, rescinded plan, EMODs, or SME freight. So we're hoping that this helps reduce the issue of trying to figure out where something's located, if it's like located in the amended or whatever. If it's just related to any sort of plan action that isn't in creating it, right? So creating an initial, creating an amendment, creating a renewal. Those different actions are now in its own chapter. We also put in an instructional set for adding service units to a provider in the middle of the year. What do we mean? So in our planned services section, right, of Harmony, where we put in our date, our provider type, regional code, all of that stuff, when you're amending to add more units to that area, it's okay to adjust the unit amount for that time frame. And then in the frequency and duration box, explain the addition. So one of the best examples I could give you is like, we requested and were approved for 10 days of respite, but something changed and I now need 2 additional more days or what have you. I can create my amendment, duplicate it, adjust that plan service by adding the 2 more days to the total units and then putting in the frequency and duration that those 2 additional units are going to be used at that time. Now, I have worked with some of you, I've worked with some of you, and your amendments are a lot more complicated than that because of the rate change we had in this past year. So it's not always so smooth of just like one line to adjust. You might have multiple lines, and that's okay. I worked with some folks this week in office hours where I'll just tell you the overview sheet looked crazy because of all of the different plan services and how it was adjusted. The big key here is that our total units on our overviews are correct, okay, when we're looking at that. And if you're really kind of unsure or uncomfortable with how your amendment is looking or how your overview is looking, just come to office hours and we'll help you puzzle through it and make sure that it's as smooth as it can be. So tele-assessment instructions have changed. You may have noticed that there was an e-alert. I know you guys get a ton of them, but a couple of weeks ago, you got a new e-alert saying that the environmental consent form was really the only form that was required. And so that's been adjusted in your instructions. And then here's a really big one. So I want to kind of take a pause. We have removed your responsibility to put in a provider association. So the guide has been stripped of all of the instructions for you to go in and associate a provider when you're creating a plan. That has now been moved over to an SDS responsibility. So what does that mean for you? It means that if you try to do it, you'll go into the plans, you'll go into your client's record and go to the providers tab, and you try to associate something, you won't have the link to do that. There will be no link to add a new provider because it's not your job anymore. It's SDS's job. It's still a useful area for you if you want to look at the different providers, but it's not going to be your responsibility in preparing your plan, okay? Final stuff on here, we added some instructions for plan approval process, and then a big one that it's transitional, but we want you to be aware of is that in the plan details form, there is this very confusing setup of a PCS drop down, a CFC drop down, and then non-waiver supports drop down. And it messes a lot of people up. It's very confusing. And as a division, we've decided to drop the CFC section of that PCS form. So that means that you're only required to put in the PCS service plan, identifying that there are IADLs or not, and answering the questions relating to if providers reside within the residence and or are related. And then on the non-waiver supports area, that's where you'd put in the hours and the types of services included. If you have targeted case management, which was the intention of that CFC box, and you are coming up with a specific time frame or time to meet your client that's outside of what's typically two monthly meetings, you can describe that in your plan services. So that's been an adjustment. So if you are kind of feeling like, wow, I really want to look at these things that she's talking about, come to the office hours after this class and we can walk you through them at that time so that you can see it in harmony and answer any of your questions that relate to demonstrating. So that kind of covers it. Oh, and I had one final thing I was supposed to remember, like really important for me to remind you guys of, because it's been something that I'm getting emails on and people are trying to figure out how to fix. It's going to be really critical that you keep using your guide when it comes to your note type subtypes. I know that you're getting really confident at this point in time, and this is when we start getting dangerous, because you're like, I'm sure it's this one. I just know it. Please double check, because what staff is finding is that you may be trying to submit something, but you don't put in the right subtype or note subtype or note combination, and then they don't ever find it until you call or DSM or come to training and say, you know, I did something 3 weeks ago and nobody's saying anything. So the big one where this is happening is on your applications. Please make sure that you're submitting a consumer application note, and then either an initial submitted or renewal submitted or whatever your type is. But make sure when you're turning in an application, you're choosing consumer application. I know it seems too easy, but we're slipping up on it, and so I really want to reinforce it. Anything else, Sina? I feel like I've rambled through this pretty fast. Maybe
I didn't even realize that was unmuted. I'm so glad I wasn't talking to myself over here. But trying to answer questions in the box.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, all right, that's good. Yeah, all right, so the question is, if we're making mistakes in harmony, here's kind of the catch. Sometimes if you've used the wrong note type subtype combination and you've attached, I don't know, like an App K plan to a consumer note, instead of going through and following the guide instructions about how to make a shell plan and attach it properly, we may find it, we may not. So if you're not following the directions in the guidebook and you're trying to creatively problem solve,
I'll tell you, maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to go probably an 80%.
Yeah,
not.
most likely assume we won't find it.
Yeah.
So the number one question about the associations.
It's really,
change, sorry. The number one question about the associations change was, do we have to disassociate them when they die or whatever? The answer is no. We do that entirely now, in case you were wondering and we didn't answer you directly.
Yeah. So there program.
All steps. Oh, go ahead.
I'm say programming change was made yesterday afternoon that changed the care coordinator's ability, so it's a security change, your ability to make any changes at all in the providers tab. You can still go and see it because it's great information. We want you to have it, but it's all on SDS now to make those changes.
Question says, regarding providers, can we no longer make change to pre-closure?
Yeah, all of your steps for plans and pre-closures and changes of status, all that's just, you don't have to do it anymore. Just anything in that tab for provider associations, it's not your responsibility. You're good.
Okay. All right, awesome. Let's continue on here. We have had some instances where people are sending email to an incorrect email address to get help from training. I don't know if it really was SDS training, Harmony help, but it was probably that at alaska.gov. Please don't use that email address. Use SDS training at alaska.gov to get help from training. We will not receive it if you use any other email address. Anything to add to that?
No, it comes from people within Alaska, like within our alaska.gov email system. We can make a search, and so another staff member may have searched that address up for you and given it to you as a potential solution. Please don't use it. SDS training gets all of the training unit, and that's the best way. If you send something to that other email address, get in there, forward it to SDS training at alaska.gov. Okay.
Yeah. Just real quickly for eMods, I know we know this, but it is also in your T24. Care coordinators are to collect final documentation from an eMod provider in order to submit it to Harmony as uploads to a note. Do not use DSM to email those in. Please work with eMod providers about this. If eMod providers have questions about it, then please refer them to SDS training at alaska.gov. All right. I'm going to hold the questions here for just a sec. When goals, objectives, and interventions are changing for HAB services, so this is about when, you're not changing the service, you're not changing the frequency, the duration, nothing changes the scope because the service is the service no matter what. However, a person can change their goals and objectives and interventions at any time if they want to change them and they don't want to work on the old ones and want to work on the new ones. So what do? It's not an amendment, first of all. What you do is have a meeting with the person, the legal rep if they have one, and the provider. Talk about the changed goals, objectives, and interventions. Have an agreement upon what the new ones will be. Make a separate document that details it. Have it signed by the provider, the person, legal rep, then keep it on file in your files and add the info to your next amendment or renewal. Also, a reminder to please be careful if you're requesting CFC, PCS. For example, watch out for duplication of supported living supports and CFC, PCS. For example, if a person is learning how to be more independent with an ADL or IADL, through supported living, just as one example, it shouldn't appear as a need for support in their CFC PCS service array. Okay. However, that being said, it's possible to ask for that. It's just that you have to be super detailed about who's doing what and when, and paint the picture for us as to how it is not duplicative. Okay, so we're not, we're accepting these goals, objectives, and interventions as changes, of course, because we aren't reviewing them as an amendment, but we will investigate it in terms of, not investigated formally, but we will ask questions about it upon that renewal or next amendment. So the deal with that is that SDS is in communication with, it's important to the provider is what I'm trying to say. A lot of times the provider, they may have a lot to do with those goals and objectives and interventions after the fact. They might need to put them into software that the DSP uses. They're definitely subject to audit when they provide the service. They have to prove that it was done. So if they're doing something different than what's on the currently approved plan and you've changed them, they need to have something to go by. something on file that says that that's the way it is. So we're asking you to, close the loop of communication with the provider. And we had a meeting with pretty much every team here about that at SDS. Our quality assurance is communicating with program integrity, so they know, what to look for and ask for should they go out and have questions with the provider and they discover a particular case where goals, objectives, and interventions are differently applied than what was on the last plan that they maybe pulled out of a file, so that the provider can say, hey, here's what was, different and new because it was a living document and we agreed and we signed and things like that. So they're going to have to know that from you. So please help us coordinate, when people want to change their goals. Short form will eventually replace our Appendix K. It is still in development and the Appendix K is still in effect, so we're not going to issue another form that we're asking for or accepting in place of the Appendix K, which does the same thing as the Appendix K pretty much. So you'll hear more about that in the future. But since Appendix K is still accepted, then we're not going to introduce that until later. Of course, our website is up and our training calendar is up, so please sign up for Refresher Harmony training if you need it. It does offer CEH. You can use our training calendar. And then I just had here that we're still working on our LMS as Learning Management System, and our care coordinator population will be our main user of our LMS, and we're designing classes to put together in it. Of course, it'll be exactly what you're, required to accomplish, but you'll be doing it within this portal. You'll make a username and a password. You'll have a profile. Then you can go in and zap out all of your certificates. We can interact with you on that format. It's going to give you documents and things like that. So, it's definitely going to be a care coordinator main page for you, but still stay in tune with that. It's called a learning management system. It's not, it's a web page, right? So you're going to go in it. We're going to give you permission. You're going to go in and make yourself a username and a password and put your email in there. Then you're going to see our classes and you're going to sign up for them there. Okay. And that's basically it. But we're excited because we have lots of new ways to interact with you, like to set up our classes, make them a little bit more interactive, the ones that are self-paced, so to speak. And we'll still do our webinars and things like that. So, mostly it'll be convenient for you because you can go in there at any time and you can get copies of your certificates. You don't have to email us for them. It can be stored on there. But I'm sure there's lots of things that'll be new and different for you on it. Things we haven't even thought of to say. It is not available yet. We're working on it. We're hoping to have it available for a few volunteer users. Probably more like maybe late December, which is horrifying because it's, the holidays, but it could be January-ish. We'll have a few users go in there and test out some of our stuff, and then we'll make it available to all care. So if you're a care coordinator, you'll be in it, okay? You'll get access to it. We'll invite you in, all right? It's going to be easy to be a user of it. It'll be easy. So anyway, I think that's what we had, unless trainers, you want to take a look at my fellow educators. Do you want to take a look at questions here? The one that said the Uni 04 projection is January. We're still working on it with our original group of planners to redo the Uni 04. LMS not available, probably January. Any ideas on when BCU will be back up? We do not have that information. I would have to refer you directly to the BCU. Albert Wall is a person who you could email at the state, probably from the BCU page. They're taking all their own questions and answering all of their own questions. All right, so now I just have Q&A. Anybody want to take a stab? Time for Q&A. We'll go up a little bit in our questions here and see if there was one that we didn't answer.
I've got one at 2:35. You want to address that one or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure. We have had a lot of pushback from agencies thinking if an Appendix K is being done, they don't have to do anything. It's been hard getting data and them not wanting to participate in a planning meeting. Um, yeah, okay. So we still, an Appendix K is a short form for a plan. It doesn't mean like do not pass go, do not collect a planning meeting, and do not do whatever, right? It means that a form is shorter, and that the intent of it is, to make the process go quicker. If there are significant issues, then they should bring them up, and a full plan should be done. But it doesn't mean that we're ignoring the person's progress at all. Um, I'm not sure how much of this is happening. Hard getting data, you mean like follow up? I've gotten a lot of questions about what we want for things like employment services, not like all the other services, because there's new regs. Folks have asked me, well, what is it that we want to see when we're doing employment services? So I've answered those, kind of individually. But as far as getting data, I'm assuming that means progress throughout the plan year for the person. Doing that stuff is part of their obligations as a provider, you know. My suggestion would be to remind them of that. If you have troubles, you can document
Yeah.
your ability to make headway with it. I always say, you can go up the chain. Somebody always has somebody above them and say, look, I'm really just trying to make this plan work for my person. The form is not this, that, and the other thing. You still have to do the services, right? So I need this data. I need this information. Go up the chain until you can't go up anymore. Then you have due diligence, on your side for getting the information. You can try giving them a deadline to give it to you. I need it in 2 weeks. I needed it.
Mhm.
I need it in two
There's
weeks.
more information, I'm sorry, on this question from at 242. So a couple people are having a conversation with us right now
Oh, okay.
to add more. Yeah. Do you see it?
hmm So providers are trying to not give progress
Yeah.
reports in narrative or plain language. They want to print out data from Therap and be done. No, that is not the purpose of the planning meeting. Is to at least go over the data together, right? Let's meet about it. Oh, I got this printout. Great. I need you to help me understand what this is. Help me put it into words for SDS because I want to help them authorize the services for you to do again. It's been going great. I need to have an explanation. It also does not help the person or their rep understand it, right? So the person needs to see their progress too, and their rep needs to see the progress. So it's not person centered to do that. And it's not unreasonable to ask for 15 minutes, to go over, even if it's 20 minutes or whatever, to go over what is this progress and then document what you discussed with that person. I get it, but that
Yeah.
is
I will
not, that's
also,
not what we do.
I also want to add in there, I know that we say this a lot, but if you have concerns that perhaps the provider is not documenting to the services, it's definitely reportable. I mean, you have concerns. That's a Medicaid integrity concern, right? That they're not documenting to the services, because when you ask for documentation, because you have to include it in the renewal support plan, and they're like, no, we're not going to give it to you, or we can't give it to you. There's a difference between we're not going to and we can't. Either way, you're not the PI, you're not the private investigator here. Report that concern up. And, we have centralized intake reporting for that. Medicaid Integrity Unit also would like to hear about these concerns. They had big concerns about the, the allowances of App K, right? They had big concerns about that. So they're watching for that. So if care coordinators have that concern, please share that.
So it says, we're thankful for the care coordination meetings. Is there something similar for other providers to remind folks about progress notes for support plans, using DSM for receiving support plans? Other concerns that care coordinators are bringing up. So we don't have a separate, outreach for providers like what we do here for care coordinators. We have, the reason for it is the arm of that tree just goes to certain branches. folks are not obligated to come to training that is to the level that a care coordinator is. We can offer outreach like that. In the past, we've found that it's, iffy, and people don't oftentimes take the time to come to something like that. My thought here, and this is just me thinking, right? I really don't have like anything other than that this is an idea. It might be something where we forward the concerns to somebody like Lizette, who heads up AADD, you know, um, and talk with her group about these things. Because it's a provider, it's the course DD Provider Association, right? But it's one of the forums that folks would welcome the information. I guess it's a weird way to say it, but they go to the Provider Association meeting already. You know what I mean? They already have an audience. So, any other thoughts, team? We always try to
Yeah,
do e-alerts when it's like it affects the provider. You know what I mean? So they don't ask you, the care coordinator. Go ahead.
I think,
Sorry.
no, you're good. I was kind of circling back to the original question of, trying to get the progress. And some of your best tools is making all those requests in writing. And when it all comes, like, that's the best way you can document for your records that you have done your due diligence. So starting off with phone calls, and if you're not getting phone calls, using DSM to make those requests. So that was one of the things that I thought, just to highlight for you, that you can document it, and it's a reasonable request. Just so, like, don't let anybody make you feel like it's unreasonable to have a summary of what progress towards previous goals, tables, or graphs look like. It's completely reasonable. Yeah, that's all I kind of wanted to throw in there.
Looking at the written in here. All right, I just put a red flag on one at 246.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. So it's really coming down to not having the CAT results when you're preparing your support plan, specifically with the CFC combo plan. That is unusual. You should have the CAT results when you get a level of care determination. Why wouldn't I have that? Maybe there was a mistake. So if you encounter that, you can always just pop into the office hours and we'll look at each specific case, and maybe we can find out what's going on. Like, why don't you have that document? Because you need it to be able to make your service request. So
Yeah. And that being said, we have asked for this for the specific reason. The other reason that we've asked for it is, so the question is the question ends with the hours can make a difference between, for the client choices, right? Do I choose IADLs of PCA or do I choose CHORE? And we bring this up from the training standpoint, we bring it up. The CAT plan review manager, that's Rodney George, he is the one who, I can't say it's a soul, it's not a solitary decision ever, but he's a good person that you could talk to about what's going on here and why this is an issue. So Rodney George, completely available on DSM. He does respond to care coordinators fairly rapidly. So if you have more questions about that and you got an LOC, I know in this particular case we're talking about the plan, it was initial, the plan's ready to be submitted, we still don't have PCS hours determination. Care coordinator still doesn't have it, How is the person supposed to make a decision as to whether or not I'm doing PCS IADLs or I'm doing CHORE when we don't even know what we're dealing with? It's not the first time I've seen that situation. It's definitely not the first time Rodney's seen it, but I do encourage that every time this is a situation, a decision point for your client or difficulty for you, that you get him involved so he can have an idea of what's really happening. Okay.
Thanks. I assigned myself a question.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this Cooperation with service planning is spelled out in the provider COPS and in the individual service COPS. And I know there was a response here that said, to report them, right? Report them as a QA issue, and that it seems that nothing is done. So seeming that nothing is done is not something that says, okay, stop reporting. If anything, report and report and report again if this is what you're experiencing. They need a lot of, they need everybody's evidence to go in to reports, like reports of quality problems. So please, I just don't want to encourage people to just, training doing something will make it better. I'm not sure, I mean, of course we can do that. Of course we can offer that. CIR and COPS and not complying with COPS is what we have to compel a provider to participate like that. We do offer training supports, of course, and we're happy to do that. Of course, we do. We have providers come to our office hours. If you want to have provider talk it over with us, so they give you objections about, cooperating and giving you information, they can come to our office hours. We're available at least 4 hours a week. We'll be available at the top of the hour here for just one because of this meeting. But again, we cannot force or enforce something to happen unless we have CIRs about it. So like the statement that we do it, but nothing happens means to me, do it again and again and again. I do, and they oftentimes can't explain what's happening with an investigation, even if you ask. But your obligation is to report. So if you don't report it, then you're out of your obligation to report. And then if you report it and you have this documentation trail, then when it comes around to the investigation, that's what you're going to have to bring to the table. And that puts you in a place of strength. And I get it. There's a question here about, I lost it. It's okay. I've been asked by a few FAMHAB homes and group homes whether the webinar video for the proposed reg changes is available online. Do I know if it's available or when it will be? Okay, so I do not have that one available. If somebody who was in the meeting who ran it, this was done for our trainers. This was through HCBS services with, I forgot his name. Sorry. The presenter, our contractor, he facilitating this discussion. So when we have changes like this, we always go through civic engagement process, right? Which is like we go out, we tell CMS about it, and they go, yeah, you can do this, and no, you can't do that, right? Then we make proposed ideas, and then we go to the public and we say, what do you think? Which is like a listening session or a learning session. Then we come back and we make proposed regs. And so then those go out for public comment, and they're always sent out on e-alert. Available materials to learn about these things are always sent out. So if it's not available yet, it'll be made available soon. I'm not sure that exact, videos will come out. There may be transcripts available. There may be, most likely when these things happen, we've been through many reg sets together, right? Usually what happens is we issue a document that has the question and the answer, right? Rather than posting a webinar or a recording, more so the public can access, like a document that they can read. It's a little bit easier for people to go through it. And our policy team is going to head that up. So if you have somebody asking about that, I think that their best bet is to email the policy team right now about that, because it's all a work in progress. But thank you. And I'm really happy that they asked you about that, that they engaged with you on that. What else? BCU is back up. Okay. Couple thoughts on that. That's good. Yeah. I'm just going to the end. We can't delete drafts in Harmony. We still need to have you ask us to do it. All right, there's a question about anyone having an ALH requiring all of the residents to use a particular pharmaceutical vendor for the meds in order for the ALH to administer meds. Please reach out to licensing about that. I don't know. They have their own rules about med administration. There may be a vendor, there may be only one vendor that does things like make a bubble pack. You know, there may be only in their area, there may be a particular pharmacy that just makes those bubble packs and make it easier for the meds to be managed in the house. I don't know. I mean, there could be lots of great reasons to say that, but I would reach out to licensing about it. You can directly contact Craig Baxter. He runs the show there, and he's awesome. He knows everything we do. He's always involved with us. So Craig
Yeah,
Baxter, he'll get back to you. Go ahead.
yeah, definitely do this because
Okay.
I'm seeing concerns. What I'm reading between the lines on you guys is that you're concerned that your clients are not being offered appropriate choice of provider if because they live in a specific assisted living home, they must use this pharmacy. And that's a basic tenet of Medicaid services is that they will have choice.
This is Cassandra. I could speak to that just a little bit. Depending on what assisted living home that you're in, sometimes those are the pharmacies that can be used under their licenses. And if you have an outside pharmacy that is going to be used, they may ask that the family or someone else bring the medication in for them. So some of this stuff is kind of normal, you know, but I think what they're speaking on is some of the smaller assisted living homes are trying to do what the bigger assisted living homes do now.
Okay, 3 minutes until we start our office hours. And we're talking about folks getting bubble packs from ANMC and then somebody getting bubble packs from Geneva Woods.
That'll be a big cost difference because ANMC and VA do something different, and they might be in the way of getting stuff delivered to them.
Right.
It could be about that. But again, like Kara said, please reach out to Craig Baxter. He can speak to that a lot more. And also just talk to your assisted living home to find out why these changes are happening and who's going to incur the cost if it's a difference, because AMNC may have something where they are allowing for their medications to go over to Geneva Woods without incurring an extra cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Final thoughts, questions, 2 minutes.
You guys are doing a good job out there.
Yeah.
That's just going to throw that your way. Like, you guys are doing really good. You're asking a lot of great questions and being excellent resources for your clients.
All right. Thank you again for all that you do. And you are doing a wonderful job. Thank you to my training team for doing an excellent job. It's really fun to support all of you and our care coordinator group too. We're so excited to share our LMS with you and to sign up with the larger provider association groups, of course. And we'll just keep on having new options for you. So we may not have as many options available for training like in the variety because it does come up on November, December. Most folks are not, super wanting to come to live trainings anyway, just because of the time and they're just busy, so we do a lot of planning in those months, but we'll have more coming out. Eventually we'll have more information about full lives, as it's going to be virtual this year again. So, we'll put that all together and you'll have other options, kind of, all for training and CEHs and things like that. So LMS is Learning Management System. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll reach out to you. We need a handful of care coordinators to be our little pilot group to go in and just fill out things. We're not going to judge you or make you have to pass. You might see some sample things in there. Or you could just blow through forms and just fill them out wrong, or whatever. We'll hope to make it easy on you. But yeah, learning management system. We need your help on that. Yeah, we're excited. So
we're really excited.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be like you won't be going to Google Doc stuff to do your trainings. You'll be going into this portal instead. So yeah, cool. Thank you. All right, so we'll sign off for now, and we'll just get back with you and let you know, and hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll catch up with you sooner than later, I'm sure. All right, bye for now. Thank you.